Hello, I'm Madeline Tynan from the Tynan Motor Group, and we're going to empower everyone today. And we're here with Matthew King, and he's our local real estate agent at McGrath.
Thank you very much for having me, Madeline.
Now, I believe you own 3 in the St George area.
Correct.
We're just actually asking people how it's changed the business philosophies and the way you do business. You know, 6 weeks ago, we're all hit with this amazing virus that changed our lives and the way we do things and our families.
Yep.
What did you do when you first started hearing about it?
I think, like everybody, Madeline, we're kind of struck with the crisis of it all, and you're a little bit in denial initially. That's certainly something that I think the whole world faced. And so we really sort of wanted to, I guess I've got a great mentor, he's an 84-year-old man, Dr. Fred Gross, and he was sort of ringing true in my ears around black swans are sent to test us. You know, black swan events in our life are ultimately, and our job is to step up and to be able to handle it. So we very quickly went into the planning mode of things and kind of figured out exactly what it was we were going to do. And
what did you do? Did you look at your cash flow first, or did you look at your staff and say, what are we going to do with that? Or did you look at your clientele? How did you tackle it?
It's a great question.
Do you have a board, or?
We do. We have. I've got
Kieran?
Kieran and I have got a board of advisors, but we don't have a formal board. No. So it was effectively a case of, you know, mentors, coaches, people that we work with. There's probably 5 or 6 people that have a heavy influence on us personally and also on a business life that we went to straight away. Yes, the first thing, obviously, as you would know, running a business is to work on the financials, and so we immediately addressed those. Fortunately for us, we run a fairly lean business anyway. We sort of were on this, as you know, real estate agents are often on this quest to have, you know, lots and lots of people, and, you know, I was on this quest of having 100 staff, and I think we realised that actually, you know, businesses need to just contribute and be profitable. They're probably 2 of the primary focuses. So we've got a team of 65 and we run a fairly lean business, and so we checked the financials initially and made the decision, yes, we're in a really good position, we're going to be able to move forward. For us personally, the second thing was, I guess I dived back into history, looking at black swan events, and the one that I personally drew the most comparison to, albeit they're quite stark in their differences, was the concentration camps of world wars and how the people who flourished and survived really well in those. And the optimists and the pessimists sort of died off quite quickly because they were, even the optimists were like, you know, this is going to be all be over in Christmas time, or we're going to just, if we get through to Easter, or if we get through to, and then of course they died of broken hearts. The pessimists died of negativity. The people that survived were the people that had 2 things in common. They had a purpose, and their purpose was to make sure that this never happened to mankind again. And the second one was a really key attribute, I think, of any successful person, and I would probably relate this to you as well, is that they just know they're going to be good enough to deal with it when they get there, and whatever happens, they will prevail. And so for us, we built our purpose around, I made it very clear to all of our team that we were going to survive together in order to thrive together down the track. And so we were not going to let anybody go. But there was going to be...
So you didn't cut back to 4 days, or you didn't put
We
anybody...
did cut back to 4 days. We did, but we did it collectively. So I said, you know, I don't want anybody to lose their job. So what we're effectively going to do is we're all going to take the pain. We're all going to go back to 4 days a week, and everyone's going to be on 80% salary. But we are going to survive together, and we're going to build a plan, and we're going to work really hard. So that was the initial sort of all hands on deck, so that it allowed people to know that their own personal situation was going to change, but not dramatically, and so that allows people to be able to look forward.
And then they can look at their mortgages or whatever structure they have financially, rent, whatever, to actually evaluate that and look at it and plan.
Absolutely spot on. And I think we went through that with everybody as well, and I started telling people, you know, we've got some buildings that we put our you know, mortgages on hold and things like that ourselves personally. I said, you've got to do a full audit. So we worked through that with our staff during that period of time. Feels like a lifetime ago now.
It does. But and it's changed so rapidly per day.
It has changed so rapidly. But at that particular time, it was like, let's build a sound foundation for us as a business and for you as individuals. And from that point, then we can start planning, and then we can really capitalise on the opportunities.
So you're actually a leader at business, obviously, and then you're a leader for your own family. Did you find that was flowing on, the thoughts you were having at work, was that flowing onto your personal life? Was that affecting that as well too?
Such a great question, and I think, yes, we're all not unique to that. I've got a daughter who's doing a HSC, and she's fortunate to have an amazing principal, and he had a meeting with the parents, and they're going through a lot of grief, those children that are now in year 12, like my daughter, doing a HSC, because of all of the milestones that they're going to miss. And so I tried again to illustrate to her and to my son, who's probably actually, he's interesting because he's probably actually flourishing under the homeschooling environment. So they're kind of, whereas my daughter's a collaborator. So it's an interesting thing for all of us, I guess, not just children, adults. People who collaborate are finding this a lot more difficult than people like my son, who are probably less distracted and more focused.
I think that's exactly like your staff too. Like, you can see the ones that have flourished and gone, okay, if we want to be here, we're working 4 days, let's try and put everything into those 4 days we possibly can and work with what we've got and make some money.
Absolutely.
And also mentally keep strong so that we can be here as a useful employee at the end of this.
Yes.
So you then had to, you've done that, you've looked at your finances, you've restructured, you've talked to your family, you've looked at your mortgages. Then obviously you still have to sell property.
Yes.
Right? So there'll be some people that are having to put their properties online and start selling them. How did that happen? How do you look at, how are you talking to people? Obviously, were you using Zoom? Were you social distancing and in talking to them?
Yep.
And talking them through selling, and the ones that were on the market,
yep,
readjusting what they were worth? Was that happening as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, the people that were on the market during that period of time, we were wanting to be ahead of the curve. So it was like, okay, this is what's happened. We know this is real. How do we figure out a way now to get you the best commercial outcome? Fundamentally, our belief is that there are some investments you've got to make in order, when you're selling a property, to get the best commercial outcome for somebody. And what was really important during that period of time, and what remains important, is to take the emotion out of it and to clear the way and look at what people's objectives are. There are a few people right now who shouldn't sell, and we've said to them, don't sell. But the majority of people going to capitalise on a market that potentially could still fall. It still could have a long way to fall. When I say a long way to fall, we don't know what it's going to look like.
Well, no one knows.
No one knows,
and
exactly.
I mean, it might be the best time. Like, we can't sell cars, but it is the best time to buy a car.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is the thing, Madeline, is that people don't recognise that. They look back on this time and they were waiting for a time when car prices were coming down or house prices were coming down, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, I'm not going to capitalise on it. So I think in terms of selling a home, we're saying to people at the moment, look, this might feel like a painful time right now, but in 6 months' time we might look back on this as the golden ages. And so let's work on what your goals are. And so, for an example, I had a couple who were downsizing, beautiful family. Well, they're not beautiful. I mean, they're a beautiful older couple with a family sort of worried about them outside. And really their two objectives were they wanted a smaller house because their house was too big, and they wanted money in the bank. And it was like, we can still achieve that, because let's work through this whole process. At the end of the day, yes, your house is worth less, but the gap is not as bad as what that would appear. And what are we doing with the rest of the money? We're investing that money. Well, we already know that the stock market's come off. So it's helping people progress. But surely you would get the serious buyer rather than someone that's just coming around, knocking around, the person next door that just wants to pop in and have a look what Auntie Bess's place looks like. You're getting a serious buyer that has to make an appointment with you. You're back to appointments. You're not open houses, right? Absolutely.
So obviously that's more work for you in some ways, but less work because you've got your real buyer there.
Absolutely, 100%. The people that we are taking through are qualified, they want to buy. It's been really interesting seeing a lot of people that are first home buyers and tenants wanting to jump into the market. There are some people that are really popping in out of the market that have been owners that have jumped into a tenancy for whatever reason and now ready to step back into the market. And there's obviously other people that are in industries that are doing well who are looking to buy. But you are absolutely right. All of those people are serious buyers. And it's great because it's kind of that old-fashioned selling where real estate was 20 years ago, when probably, when you bought your first house like me, I was just at the tail end when I bought my first house, and I wasn't in real estate at the time, but you jump in the car with the salesman or saleswoman and they would drive you around and take you to the houses, and it's kind of like that now. And an interesting byproduct, I showed a property the other day and it took me 3 hours to show 12 buyers through, but the neighbours all came out, I got to know them, so it's I guess an opportunity. And when I talked to you earlier about spotting the opportunities. What are the opportunities? Well, one of them is to deepen relationships. And so, because you've got more time. I mean, it's very hard. I know your husband, Wayne, popped through one of my open houses. We were having sort of 40 people prior to COVID-19. And it's very hard to be able to give anyone a great deal of time and actually, be helpful to people under that environment. Whereas now, it's like I've got 15 minutes with you. I can find out your situation and I can try to place, a
property that suits you.
Correct.
Right. So in saying that then, do you think it'll stay like that? Or do you think it'll revert back to open houses, having the young person standing at the front door, meet, greet, back to that? Or do you think it'll stay where it is?
I think it will eventually go back to where it was, because I think that for people like my daughter and certainly people like me that like to be around other people, that is the best place, and it's the easiest and the most efficient way to get the highest and best price for somebody's home.
Okay.
But I do think that there will be some lag effects of what we're going through right now. So for an example, online auctions have been around for a long time. We embraced them a few years ago. We didn't have much of a take-up. We were I was very proud of our company in that we adjusted basically the Saturday before we were required to, and we had online auctions, and we had a lot of success with that. I think those will continue on. However, I don't feel like if you're ready to make the biggest investment, for most people in their lives, watching it online is going to be the option for most people when they've got the opportunity to actually be there and see what's happening.
Well, the country areas have used that for quite a while. I mean, I bought property online before in the country.
Yes.
So are you saying there has been a take-up in that in the city or?
Oh, there's an absolute take-up for now, definitely. Right. And I'll give you an example. On Saturday we sold 7 out of 14 auctions, and 2 of those auctions went above reserve. Oh. One of them had 36... was it 36 or 63? Isn't that bad? I'm being dyslexic now. But a lot of bidding on one particular property. And we had one house in Oatley that sold. It went about 60 or 80,000 above its reserve for about 1.68, and another property that sold for about 1.35, and it had a 1.25 reserve, so it went 80 above reserve.
Okay.
So it's still possible.
That's against the trend then. So because the trend is down 10 to 15%, I've been told. Have you noticed then, if you're trending like that in the St George area, is that a different trend across the McGraths that you've seen?
Well, what's interesting is that my 4th office is in Revesby. Revesby's just an interesting one, and I know it doesn't necessarily relate to our specific area that we're here now, but that's certainly been less impacted as well, and I feel like maybe the employment over there is in industries that are less impacted: health, transport, factory, manufacturing. I still think, though, that you're right in what you say. I think properties have probably come off, 10% in the St George area, probably a similar number in the Shire. But I do think it varies. I think some properties are probably more like 5 to 8%. Some properties that are less potentially desirable are probably closer to 15, and they have the potential to go more. So it's very much a horses for courses. Right. But I think in both those cases, the auctions that I talk about, the vendors were willing to meet the market and had ascertained what the new market looks like. And I think the greatest thing that we've all got to do is what was and what is. And, a lot of people now are into what is, but initially in those first few weeks post-COVID-19 sort of really taking hold. People
were in shock, weren't they?
They were in shock, and they were like, I want what I used to have. And it's like, now we've just got to embrace what is.
Do you think, though, the best businesses will step forward now? Like, obviously the real estate industry was on a high and then started to have a little bit of a waver. Now we've hit this. Are the best going to step forward? Obviously, the McGraths of the world, yourself, are you going to see that happen? And the ones that aren't strong enough and aren't adaptive falling by the wayside? Yeah.
I think so. And look, nobody wants to see that. It's not something that we delight ourselves in. But yeah, I think, the old adage of, you only see who's naked when the tide goes out. One of Warren Buffett's great ones is a simple case. And if you've got, an average mindset, an average business practice, you're not really following strong processes, in good times you can get away with that, but clearly when times change and they're difficult, you've got to have, as an individual, you've got to have a great mindset, or otherwise you're going to perish. And you've got to have good processes, and I guess people will pay for skill and for value. I often refer to Mercedes as an example, as one of the brands that you sell, and why do people pay more for that? Because of quality and safety, and so it's the same in any service. You can get a hairdresser for a lot less than some people pay. It's about the quality that you get, and our quality proposition is getting our clients the best possible price and having a process that makes them feel very easy along the way, that they have some level of control and they understand what's happening. And
just quickly, your rental role. Like if you've seen people falling off there, probably more in the commercial side than the residential side. There's a lot of Qantas people that live in this area.
Yes.
A lot of those people aren't being paid. Now we're lucky with the stimulus that they will have the money to put back into rental. Have you seen many of those falling off? Yeah,
I've seen some really the best of human nature in it as well. A little bit of the worst. There are some people that you might think that have potentially taking advantage of it, but I've just seen people wanting to work with other people and help other people, and that's been another thing that we've worked through all of our landlords with, is getting themselves in a good financial position. We're fortunate that the insurance company that we use and recommend to our clients have supported all of those people with any shortfalls in their rent. So we're managing about 1,300 residential properties mainly. There's a few commercial properties as well amongst those. And we've found that we've seen the best in human nature most of the time. There are a few outliers, but probably rents are off residentially around 10% would be a reasonable kind of a number. And have they been
readjusted, or like are the owners readjusting them for you?
Correct.
Are they agreeing with that?
Correct.
That's a good point of view.
It's just taking that long-term view of, do we want to have this property vacant? Now, what's really interesting also is, though, that we're finding that we're leasing a lot of properties. I think we leased 14 this week. Okay. 15 maybe this week. We've probably got another 20 odd to go that are either coming on that are not available yet or whatever else. Like, it's a constant thing with a rent roll, but there's still a lot of tenants out there. There's still a lot of people looking, and on average on the weekend we would have had 3.5 private inspections per not open house, per showing of properties, and we have those people staggered.
The other interesting thing that we were talking about before we came on air is private treaty. Mm-hmm. That amazes me. There's that people just not wanting other people to know that they're selling. Is that the reason, or is there something else that we're seeing? Yes, off market.
Yeah, look, and I'm a huge believer in. So there is a lot of agents out there, a lot of my competitors, even some of my team that are doing this off market strategy. To me, there's a simple formula for getting the maximum price for a property, and it starts with more buyers, getting them emotionally connected and putting them in some form of a competition. I'm still a huge advocate, even in this market, for auction. And the reason that I am for that is that it gives people a deadline to make a decision by. There's a lot of people that will procrastinate, and that includes buyers of real estate all of the time. And so if there's a definitive deadline in which to make a decision by, it can often be the process that drives them. So I sold a property last Thursday. It was due to go to auction, and it was the buyer wanted to love the home. We agreed that the price was the right price, and to push forward, they wanted to push forward to avoid having to go into competition.
Yeah. Right.
So, but the answer is, Madeline, some people would prefer to protect their personal interests, and I respect that. Don't get me wrong. It can be people. I'm like every other human being. I don't want to be embarrassed or shamed. And some people feel that. I think the important thing as a real estate agent is to explain this is just a part of business, a part of life.
Oh, definitely.
And we want to get you through this the best possible way. The way I can help as an agent is to ensure that you get the absolute, most money in your back pocket to allow you to move forward with your life.
Okay, so just to wrap everything up.
Yep.
Is there anything, like I know in our business we, being a family company, we run mean, we run lean. And we've been very manipulative in structuring the business to move forward, because the car industry is a changing beast as well.
Absolutely.
Before all this happened.
Yes.
So when this did happen, it was very difficult to look at what we're going to strip and how we do this so that we're here at the other side. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you would take forward out of your steps and processes that you would keep when we come out of this?
I think the first thing I would say to you is the people are all going to be better in our business for stepping up to the mark. The leadership in our business, some of the people you know, I was speaking to one of my mentors the other day, and they were saying that this is going to be people's success stories in 5 years' time. You're going to listen to people up on stage, and the reason that they are where they are in their life was as a result of the changes that they made during COVID-19. So I've been very keen to reinforce that in our team. And what's been amazing is the amount of people that have embraced that have jumped into the trenches, that have really, I think, you know, you are a genuine family business. I think businesses, you know, using the term family is overused, but I do believe that there's been some real family traits and some real leadership shown in our business. So I hope that carries forward, because people that have stepped up to the mark, that have surprised us, has been really great to be able to hold a spotlight on those people. In terms of processes, I just think that we've just been much more adaptive, much more quick to change, and much more embracing of a whole lot of stuff. And I actually think that the whole world will carry that forward as well. And I certainly think we will as a business, that when there was sometimes pushback on change, I think that the hope is that COVID-19 will help us block that out and put that to the side a little bit more and be able to embrace more change. You know, we all know that what got us here won't get us there, and we've got to continually get better as a business. And so we're not perfect, but what we do want to commit to is getting better on a daily basis. So that change that gets implemented used to get a little bit more pushback. I hope that we don't forget that going forward, and that will be my job to remind the team that.
Yeah, I'd love to thank you.
Thank you.
Matthew, it's been fabulous that you're here. You are empowering, not just to your own staff, but to people in our community as well too. And it's great that we can intermingle in this way and talk about how we are getting through. But really, people like you and the other people that we've been interviewing are just empowering, and it's wonderful to see that you'll be fighting on with your team to make sure that you're out there getting the best prices for your clients.
Well, I want to thank you, Madeline, as well, because I think it's great that you're in the role that you're in, and you've always been somebody who's certainly well respected in the community. And I think the beautiful part about you and your family is that you've actually used that in a really positive way. And I think this is another example of that, because you're right, we need to connect with each other. We're all feeling this, and the more that we share it, the easier it is for us to move forward. So
it's very true. Like, and if you think you're in an island when you're going through it, I know with our business, when it happened, we were like, oh God, okay, how do we do this? Well, all of a sudden, you know, we've got millions and millions of dollars worth of metal sitting out there, and we're not allowed to let anyone in. Yet the service side and the spare parts side was rocketing.
Yes.
So that was quite an odd thing to be dealing with. You know, we were like going, hang on, half of it's going and other of it's not. And the motor industry was going through a tough time anyway. So it's quite interesting to see who rises to the top. And it's other businesses too, if they're flourishing. You know, I love to see other business flourish, because if they're flourishing, that means we're going to flourish as well too, because we all intermingle our businesses together.
Well, if there's one thing that this has taught us, and this great video series has taught us, that we are all connected. We're not an island, and we need each other. So
yes, especially for mental health, I think is great too.
Definitely.
Get out there and keep walking.
Exactly. I'll see you out there.
Okay, thank you.